Morning.
Hi.
Right. Here we go.
Can you believe the year you've had?
The statistics are crazy. 21 out of 22 races. Broke the record for the most wins in a year, the most podiums in a year, the most poles to wins in a year, the most points in a year, the biggest winning margin ever.
Max Verstappen wins, the Canadian, the Austrian, the British, Hungary, Monaco, Qatar, Mexico City Grand Prix.
How would you sum up 2023?
Red Bull.
Red Bull.
It's domination like Formula One has rarely seen.
In 2023, Red Bull made everyone look stupid. They were unstoppable.
Fuck it up.
Max Verstappen, you are world champion.
There can only be one winner at the end of the day. You know what competition's like. Ruthless.
Ruthless. The truth is, you never know what life's going to bring.
You don't.
You never know.
Yeah.
And away we go.
This is going to be the wildest season in F1 history.
And it's caught Epic season.
Extraordinary.
Over half the F1 grid aren't signed for 2025.
It's got to survive.
If you lose your seat, could be that your career's over.
No one is safe.
If you don't perform, you're out. Finito.
And off track, the press, the whispers, the rumor mill, so much drama.
It is what we think it is. Absolutely explosive.
And what are we going to do?
Nothing to see here.
I deny any accusations that have been made against me.
What I'm going to say is going to put more pressure on.
I mean, we used to sit next to each other in the tub.
Ah, yeah.
Maybe tickling the bum hole a little bit.
This year, everyone's hungrier than ever for success. And hoping to take the challenge to Red Bull Racing.
I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to win.
What the fuck is he doing? Bullshit! Right rear is on fire!
These two friends turned rivals. Oh, they made contact.
Everything I do is to become a world champion.
Grab your popcorn.
Red flag, red flag.
I'm gonna fucking die.
Do this.
I can't actually remember all of the stories over the winter because there was just one that overtook them all. One of the biggest stories, possibly in Formula One history. Lewis decides he's leaving Mercedes and goes to Ferrari. This is seismic.
Goodness me, we've got some huge breaking news.
In one of the biggest bombshells in Formula One history,
Lewis Hamilton will leave Mercedes and join Ferrari for the 2025 season.
announcing he's defecting to arch rivals Ferrari in 2025.
It now seems pretty certain that Lewis Hamilton will end his F1 career wearing a red suit. first race in Bahrain just 17 days away. It's been a busy winter and big news announced.
How much of a milestone is today?
You don't even need to tell me. I will have the responses. Thank you.
Okay.
Just want a hug. When he told me, it seemed a bit surreal. My driver, after 12 years being part of the team, tells me I'm going to Ferrari, which is like, really? I can't even picture you in a red overall. How does that even fit? What came as a surprise was the timing. Why would he do that now? Sorry, I have a hair in my eye. Are you using that already? I'm sure for tears, like he was crying.
It's crazy to think this is our last launch together. Yeah, well, it's obviously been emotional. It's very surreal to be here, given I came here in 2013. It's been a real privilege.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was a real thing.
No.
You screwed us over.
For Lewis to make the announcement in February, before you've even driven the new car, that's a long divorce. That's 24 races.
Put your hands together for Toto Wolff and our driver.
It showed that Lewis doesn't believe Toto can turn things around and deliver a fast car.
We put a little bit more red on the car so he gets used to it slowly.
Can we be honest about the livery?
Yeah, but don't be too negative. I mean, we're just trying to sell it. It's really great.
I've been holding back. It's not as good as last one.
No, it's really good with the silver and the
It looks
green.
like two cars split in half and put together. It's just the truth. I can't help it. I have to.
So why don't we do a Lewis edition?
Yeah.
We choose a race.
And then we'll bring it next year, so when we're ahead of you, you can look at it from a really good view of it.
This is what I'm going to have to put up with the whole year.
Ultimately, Hamilton moving to Ferrari has given us a scenario that nobody imagined would exist. Caught the entire grid off guard. And there's only 2 seats at a Formula One team. So who gets the chop at Ferrari to make room for Lewis Hamilton?
It's the final countdown.
The 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton, will be replacing Carlos Sainz, who's also released a statement confirming he will be parting ways with Ferrari at the end of this season.
I wasn't prepared for that news. And at that point, I was sad, very sad. I want to give this to you. Chile or post-teammate era.
Well, come on, you're only starting the season.
I feel desperately sorry for Carlos. You know, I think he would have taken this quite personally.
Carlos Sainz wins the Singapore Grand Prix.
P1, baby.
Ferrari are giving up a great racing driver, the only non-Red Bull driver to have won a race in 2023. Losing a seat at Ferrari, that would probably have an impact on anybody.
My best opportunity to be world champion would have been to stay in Ferrari. This sport is tough. I just want to make sure I prove to everyone and prove to myself what I'm worth.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new season dawning. We are all set to begin pre-season testing. We are go for Formula One in 2024.
Luis, come on, baby, come on.
There's so much hope, optimism, so much unknown.
This is going to be the launch image for the championships. You know how we did the grid shoot before?
Yeah.
Basically, this is replacing that.
I feel like I'm on the Teletubbies.
Wow, what's with the colors? It's a weird photo, no?
Morning, everybody. Can I bring you over here a bit, please? I'll tell you the plan.
2024 compatriots.
What's up, man?
Oh, dude, it's so.
Some people say I look like an Australian construction worker. Just missing the
You look
back.
like all of my friends.
Is this an upgrade to the mullet?
It is upgrade. The golden mullet.
The Bottas 2.0.
Right, okay, drivers, if you want to try and find your positions on the set, that'd be good. Waiting on Mercedes. As soon as Lewis is here.
Will be interesting winter.
Yeah, man, I can see it, dude. Yeah, really well.
Lewis's move to Ferrari is a cool move, I think.
I think it's pretty sick, to be honest. Good for Lewis. Good for his bank account, too.
Good. All right, you good? Nice colors, dude.
He's got the speed. He's got the experience. Who goes to replace Lewis? That's a tough one. Still been waiting for the call from Toto, but phone hasn't rang.
Show the guns, whatever. Chill.
Show the guns. That's a porn star, though.
For the first time in Formula One history, you've got exactly the same group of drivers starting a season as ended the last.
Hey, you're balding a little bit here.
Okay, moving in. 3, 2, 1.
But almost 3/4 of the F1 grids are not signed for 2025. I don't think I can remember a season where there were that many seats up for grabs.
This is my final year of my contract. It's like you're constantly flirting. No.
We're all obviously fighting for the same piece of tarmac. There's going to be probably a lot of movement.
Just based on how many drivers' contracts are expiring, silly season will be the next level.
Okay, everybody okay? Looking at the X.
Every race this season is going to be an audition. And that means established stars are going to have to perform.
And we are clear. Thank you very much for your time. Romeo done.
How are you?
For Carlos, this might be his one and only time to prove that he deserves a place in Formula One. But it's not every day a team gets to sign Lewis Hamilton.
Non, je l'ai pas vu.
Désolé, ganz kurz noch.
Oh, ich kann es kaum fassen. Ja, kein Stress.
I'm very proud of you. It's good for the sport.
Question for you, Liz. What's the motivating factor to join Ferrari because you no longer thought you could win that eighth world title with Mercedes?
Regardless whether or not this is a championship winning car, won't have any bearing on how I feel about the next stage of my career.
What about Sorry? Yeah,
Question to, hey, how are you doing? Question to
which makes me feel like
going back to
I'm really an interesting one already.
how did you handle the situation?
You don't think Merck will win again? You think they're declined?
Sur le timing, je l'ai fait à dessein, je l'ai fait exprès. Aussi parce que pour nous, c'était important d'attaquer la saison avec ça derrière nous. Ils sont complètement délibérés très tôt et je pense que c'était une bonne décision.
How are you? Good to see you.
Fred has been one of my longest and best friends. I didn't see that coming from him. Well, I sent Fred a WhatsApp 2 days before. I didn't reply, so I guess I knew.
Que la compétition, c'est pas seulement entre Toto et Fred. Hein. La compétition, c'est entre deux équipes, deux marques. Ça passe avant toute amitié.
It is a new situation. It's something that we didn't anticipate.
In F1, there are no friendships. You will stab each other in the back for the best opportunity at winning races. And to take the fight to Red Bull Racing.
Any other questions?
Some very serious allegations have been levelled against one of your team principal colleagues. What are your feelings about the way that's being handled, the length of time it's taking, the fact the person in question is still in his role?
Red Bull have just launched an investigation after allegations of inappropriate behaviour were made against Christian Horner.
Christian Horner is accused by a female member of Red Bull staff of controlling and coercive behaviour.
Hello, how you doing?
Right.
Right, you got some water there. So is it quicker to mention what we can or can't talk about?
I mean, there's so much that he can't answer. You know, we're in the middle of it, and so for sort of legal reasons we can't talk about it. So
We'll just start from the beginning.
Come on, let's get going. Are you starting to fill it up in there now then? Or? How are we doing, you alright?
Oh, okay, how are you?
Yeah.
Before we do any media, whoever is looking after you will reiterate the fact that anything to do with the investigation is off limits. We're not discussing everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also not more to say.
There's not more to say. You grab me when you need me, yeah. Save me, yeah.
You don't see me yourself, you okay?
Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah. Right.
Ready?
Yep.
Let's do this.
It's the first time in front of the whole media since the storm had broken.
If I have to jump in, I will. Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay.
And does it risk unsettling the team?
But it's going to go into the season because the season's only 2 weeks away.
Did you give any thought to maybe stepping aside from those duties temporarily while all this is sorted out?
Can you guarantee you've never behaved inappropriately towards a colleague?
Look, I deny any accusations that have been made against me.
So you're innocent?
Yeah, as I say.
Is everything as it was before?
Business is normal.
Good. Business is normal. There you go.
Good. You like the cooling on the car?
You're obviously going to get asked about Christian Horner. Yeah. What's going on right now? Yep.
Morning. You think they'd have enough of all these walking pictures by now, wouldn't you? Hi, guys. You know, it's a crucial time of the year. In the job that I do, you're the front face of the organisation. You can either hide away, or you can get out there and face it.
Christian, how can people take this investigation seriously when you've not been asked to step aside while it's in process?
As you're well aware, there's a process going on which I form part of, and as I form part of that process, I'm afraid I cannot comment on it.
Zach, what's your reaction to the way that's being handled?
Well, the allegations are extremely serious. Red Bull Corporation, it appears, has launched an investigation, and all we hope is that will be handled in a very transparent way in which there's no doubt that it's been handled appropriately, because I don't believe these are the type of headlines that Formula One wants or needs. There's a lot of stuff going on over there that I think will create some divide, and ultimately any sports team needs to have total unity.
Well, you find out who your friends are, don't you?
I wouldn't want to be Christian. What's happening, gents?
Not long.
Yeah, nothing going on. Nothing to see here.
Zach is a prick.
Let's just get through this.
Yeah, I know.
Business as usual.
Yeah, I'll get through it.
The wait still goes on to find out the future of Red Bull's team principal, Christian Horner. We're expecting the outcome to be made public tomorrow.
It's time for a practice session for our 20 drivers and 10 teams.
It's about what happens on this day, on this track, and it's exciting to be here.
What do you think your car's going to be like? Or you have no idea? No idea.
Donnerstagmorgen 10:32 Uhr, ganz genau der Zeitpunkt, zu dem Christian Horner das Fahrerlager hier in Bahrain.
Major Formula One news.
The independent investigation into the allegations made against Mr. Horner is complete.
What I can say to you is the allegations against Christian Horner have been dismissed. He is continuing with his job.
Horner has been cleared of any wrongdoing.
He and his Red Bull team continue to be under a huge spotlight.
This investigation has come to an end. It must be a relief for you.
Look, I'm pleased it comes to an end.
Do you think that it's going to affect somehow for the team, or is it business as usual, as you said before?
No, very much business as usual.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. It is time to progress to a really important session under the floodlights.
This will tell us a lot about the pecking order in 2024.
Just got to go out there and do it on the top.
Do what we do?
Yeah, exactly.
Radio check, Max.
Yeah, radio check.
It's now time to focus on what we're here for.
That's 15 seconds, Max.
To go racing.
Yeah, all good.
This is where you really see what everyone has brought to the table for 2024.
George, radio check. Radio check.
We definitely hope and believe that the team are going to deliver a faster car. That's what we've been working towards.
2023 was a difficult season for the team. This year, it feels like we are in a better position.
The track will be clear. Copy.
And it's a green light then.
This is the business end, isn't it?
Checking in on the balance. Yeah, all good.
Lo del Verstappen, tío, y los Red Bull. Qué barbaridad.
Consistency from Max Verstappen. Let's see what Carlos Sainz can do.
We're doing a good job, keep pushing at this.
It's a big year for Carlos Sainz, isn't it? He's got to put himself in the shop window and sell himself, basically.
Another crazy season ahead. You can't predict anything about what's going to happen.
Okay.
It's a new season. How's the car?
Yeah, not great.
Lance was in the middle of the way. They are all talking sleeping together.
Is that the first complaint of the new season? Ah, we're so back.
Yeah, pace looking good, Lewis. Nice one.
Lewis Hamilton looking consistently quick out there.
Can you say anything after lap or two?
Yeah, I'm pretty straightforward, no relation.
But so initial thing is not so bad?
Yeah, nice and clear, no issue.
Good. Okay, top outs are good.
Yeah.
So Carlos, first day in the car for 2024. How are you feeling about today?
I felt good. We've seen a lot of teams being very competitive, and it's clear that Mercedes are going to be in the fight, and Red Bull, I expect them to be, also stronger tomorrow and Sunday.
Thank you.
So obviously there are talks with every single team that has an available seat. That includes for sure top teams like Red Bull and Mercedes. Definitely a challenge to find Carlos's next seat. But yeah, it's part of the game.
I love you. I love you.
How much time is left? 9 seconds. So boxes lap Max.
At the end of The second practice, suddenly my phone starts getting messages and this, that, and the other. You know, there's a bombshell that's dropped for a bunch of alleged messages.
Material purporting to be the alleged evidence in the investigation, it has been leaked.
A trove of texts allegedly between Mr. Horner and a female colleague have been leaked online.
The texts, which appeared to be written by Christian, have been shared just a day after he was cleared of inappropriate behavior.
Gut. Wärst du bereit für ein kurzes Wort mit uns?
Je sais même pas comment il peut rester jusqu'à la fin du week-end.
An anonymous email has been sent to every team principal.
Is it an email?
Yeah.
To the two of you?
And to pretty much every member of the Formula One press. That contains a cache of WhatsApp messages and photographs.
It was obviously premeditated to cause me the maximum amount of distraction, the maximum amount of aggravation.
Is this real? That is the burning question.
Is he gonna live? With all the WhatsApps, and so many people know, so I don't know. I'm not sure. Well, he's fighting with everything he has, because there is nothing if he goes.
You so far declined to comment on what you've described as anonymous messages. Why can't you comment on them?
They're from an unknown source, which I'm not going to comment on.
Doesn't it bother you that someone doesn't want this to stop?
No, I'm not going to comment on what motives whatever person may have for doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's been no confirmation or denial on whether the texts are genuine or who leaked them.
It was obvious that the end goal was for me to leave Red Bull.
But who's leaked them?
That's the multi-million-dollar question.
That you knew the answer to.
So Christian, very special moment for you right now.
Look, I'm looking forward to going racing, and all our focus is on the Grand Prix and the first race of the season. The higher you rise, the sharper the knife. I reached the top of my game, and I never thought in a million years I'd have a challenge like this in my career.
When the story stops being the team and the story becomes one man, it threatens to become a soap opera.
Welcome along. It's the first of 24 in 24, the Bahrain Grand Prix. And this is what all the hard work has been for.
There will, of course, be question marks over the internal situation at Red Bull. Every team will have their eyes on how this plays out. And whether that's done anything to knock that team off centre.
Ready for it, that's it. It's the only 2 hours of fucking peace I get.
All the best. See you around, yeah? Sorry?
What do you work in Mercedes?
I do marketing.
Feeling good?
Enjoying it, yeah? Let's see where it goes.
I don't think anyone doubts Charles is a really good pick for Ferrari to stay. I think we are both very talented. Till I am ahead now.
Yeah, you're even before this, you're ahead. So I think.
But who knows? I know if I do a good job in the next few races, it's gonna give me a chance to sign a better deal.
Showtime! So many teams think they've made progress on race pace. This is where we're going to find out what's true and what work is still to be done.
Every new season presents a brand new opportunity. Will Red Bull still be the competitive force they were last year?
Pole position for Max Verstappen.
How will Carlos Sainz fare? Essentially, every race from now on is a job interview.
Wait 3 seconds. Hamilton starts the Grand Prix in 9th.
Have Mercedes finally been able to get on top of this generation of car?
Last car approaching the grid.
This is the moment then that we've all been waiting for.
5 seconds.
Formula One in 2024 begins when the 5 red lights go out.
It's lights out and away we go for the opening race in Bahrain. Sainz hasn't had the best of start.
Charles Leclerc trying to go around the outside of Max Verstappen.
Verstappen gets away.
It's a four-way battle for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th places.
That was a lot. Keep pushing. This is a good lap. More pace. Okay, good to know. Full forward now.
So his last lap compared to Sainz, losing time.
Your value as a driver is dictated by what you've been able to achieve on the track.
You are faster and Charles.
Behind you have Sainz and DRS.
I was just like, go for it.
Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz almost touching wheels.
Carlos Sainz moves past him to 4th place.
Let's go hunting. Copy.
It's what he's got to do this year, isn't it? You prefer Lewis Hamilton over me, then I'm going to have to think of Team Carlos now.
There's a gap behind 6.5. That's good. Now settle in.
Max Verstappen leading this Grand Prix.
Front for nowhere. George, we need more management.
George Russell is having a few problems.
No, we're going slower and slower. Clearly something has happened.
Cannot get the front working. P3, nice job there, well done.
Mercedes struggling out there.
Left. 3 laps remaining. Jumping off. These guys are fast, man.
Hamilton's been kind of stifled here. I expected more from Mercedes.
very happy. All good.
The defending champion on top. He wins the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Well done, Max. 1-2 finish, fastest lap, pole position, clean sweep. So brilliant start to the year. Thank you very, very much.
That was simply lovely. Great start to the year, guys.
Congratulations. Well done, congratulations.
That's the best way to fuck all of them. Shut the fuck up.
Be free. Also on job there. Good job, Carlos. Yes. Good job.
Thank you, Fred.
You are the driver of the day.
Keep up
And enjoy the podium.
This is exactly how I wanted to start. Making a bit of a statement and a really good result at a really good time.
Lewis, I think that's P7. It's a difficult day in the office.
Well, no fun. No fun.
What happened there?
I watched all the metrics return to where they were, and the lap time was just fucking gone. So, I don't know.
But also the pace difference to Sainz is just not good at all.
Yeah, I would agree.
Toto ultimately is looking at another season that will fall so far below what Mercedes' basic expectations are for a year, whilst also trying to figure out who will replace Lewis Hamilton for 2025.
And the winner of last year, Max Verstappen.
Jos Verstappen told the Daily Mail that tension remains at Red Bull. The team is at risk of being torn apart if the team principal remains in charge.
If Christian thought that this was all going to blow over, he was sorely mistaken. Jos Verstappen has made it abundantly clear that he wants Christian Horner gone.
Your father gave a comment that if Christian Horner stays in the team, it will tear the team apart.
My dad is very outspoken. He's not a liar, that for sure. And what I want, and that doesn't matter who is involved in the team or not, is to have, of course, a quiet environment where everyone is, of course, happy to work. It's just relentless. I keep thinking it's running out of steam, and then something else comes up.
It seems incredible that at the height of a team's success,
Max Verstappen wins the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Well, Max, that was absolutely clinical.
Yeah, exactly.
Red Bull remain in turmoil. Could this be the opportunity that all their rivals have been waiting for?
Welcome along to the Australian Grand Prix. The sun is out and Albert Park is packed full of passionate fans.
Fundamentally, when you run the team, you have to take responsibility. You are accountable for the results.
Lots of papaya, which is cool.
Looking at the Red Bull car, it's unbelievably fast.
How are you?
So we need to be there to capitalize if they trip up.
On est en train de construire quelque chose, on progresse énormément. Par rapport à l'année dernière, c'est, je pense, un vrai pas en avant.
Through the whole of 2023, only Ferrari got a Grand Prix win other than Red Bull, and Ferrari have turned up to fight this season.
I'm feeling better, Carlos. Carlos, photo. Carlos, please.
Thank you, Carlos. All good. How are you? Get in there. Good.
I mean, other than Max, Carlos is the informed driver. But the problem is, the question marks remain over whether he'll be fit enough to race. It's only been 16 days since Carlos had emergency surgery.
Breaking news.
Carlos
Sainz has been diagnosed with an appendicitis.
He's gonna miss the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and potentially Australia. It's not a good situation at the moment.
16 days, that's really quick turnaround. The question is, will he be fit enough to race?
You're back 100% or still getting there?
100%, I'm not gonna be, but let's see.
Some would say it's rushing back. Is there
Why?
slight... Well, it's major surgery, isn't it?
Mi fa un po' male, per me mi fa più male questo che questo.
sotto? Vabbè,
In the first week, I couldn't pretty much walk or get out of bed by myself.
Devi solamente abbassare proprio.
Lo prendo io.
Prendi aria. Lascia. Bravo.
I'm still cannot sneeze, cannot cough because of the abdominal pain. But Formula One is a very short-term memory sport. It only counts the last race. I don't have a seat for the future. So I need to get into the car and not think about anything else. That's the most scared I've been of jumping in a Formula One car in my life.
Time to go racing. Max Verstappen in pole position, who could win 10 races in a row for the second time in his career.
Carlos Sainz, after having his appendix surgery, put in a remarkable qualifying to put the Ferrari in second. It's going to be a long, tough race for him.
Time for Carlos Sainz, but his path is blocked by Max Verstappen.
Verstappen 1.15. Push. You want to push now? Yeah, push, please.
Okay.
Okay, Max. Car behind Sainz. 1 second.
Okay, now the car's loose.
Understood.
Look at this, Carlos Sainz, he's almost wheel to wheel. Ferrari take the lead.
What a move that was.
Good job. Verstappen 0.6 behind.
Can he keep the Dutchman behind him? It's going to be a really tough ask.
All okay, Max?
I just lost the car. Really weird.
Smoke down the back of our car.
Fire.
Yeah, Fox.
Brake. Get the fire extinguisher ready.
They're not going to fix this. It's all over for Verstappen.
It's too early to say whether what's going on off track is affecting things on track, but it can't help.
This is the best drive I've ever seen from Sainz.
And last lap. We got it.
Yes, we have it. P1, baby, P1.
This is amazing.
It took Ferrari and Carlos Sainz almost the entirety of last season to beat Red Bull.
Thank you, Ferrari. Forza. Like it's a roller coaster.
It's taken them 3 races in 2024.
I don't know if we have to do the surgery each week, but...
I'll tell you what's a hell of an advert for a driver that's not employed next year.
The only thing that came out of my mind was like, tienes los huevos más grandes que he visto nunca. Which basically translates like, you've got the biggest balls that I've seen in my life.
I think Red Bull may be losing their grip on their dominance. Is 2024 going to be dull? I don't think so.
Max wants to win. I want to win.
Jesus. These two friends turned rivals.
It's fucked.
Did he apologise?
No.
Lewis Hamilton joining Ferrari for the 2025 season.
Ferrari is not happening for me next year.
The race is on to see who can sign Sainz.
There is real competition.
In Formula One, there's winners and wankers, and you don't want to be in the wanker category.
If you don't perform, you're out. Simple as that. Finito.
The architecture of destiny, rules, rivalries, and the wills of men. Chapter 1. The Snows of Foxborough. The cold of New England in the month of January is not merely a temperature. It is an active participant in the affairs of men. It seeps through the heavy layers of wool and leather, numbing the extremities and sharpening the focus of those who must perform under its harsh gaze. On that historic night in Foxborough, the air was thick with falling flakes, turning the stadium into a silent, white amphitheater. The snow fell in a romantic, steady rhythm, catching the glare of the towering stadium lights and casting a dreamlike haze over the gridiron. For the young quarterback of the New England Patriots, Tom Brady, this frigid landscape was a familiar canvas, a reminder of the bitter winters he had endured during his collegiate days in Michigan. He stood on the sideline, hands tucked into a small blue warming pouch, his eyes scanning the field with a quiet, deliberate intensity. Across the field stood his former collegiate teammate, Charles Woodson, the brilliant defensive back of the Oakland Raiders. They had shared a locker room, celebrated triumphs together, and knew the depths of each other's competitive drive. Now, they were adversaries in a high-stakes postseason contest that would determine the course of their careers and, ultimately, rewrite the history of the National Football League. The game had been a grueling battle of attrition. The Oakland Raiders, a franchise built on a legacy of physical intimidation and Western swagger, had established control, leading 13-10 as the clock ticked down in the final quarter. The footing was treacherous, the ball slippery, and every movement required a conscious effort to maintain balance. The Patriots had struggled to find momentum, their offense stymied by a relentless Oakland defense. With under 2 minutes remaining, the tension within the stadium reached a fever pitch. The Patriots faced a 2nd down and 3 situation at the Oakland 47-yard line. Tom Brady dropped back to pass, his eyes searching the snowy field for an open receiver. The play was designed as a 3-by-1 formation, with 3 receivers flooded to one side and a single receiver on the backside. On the sideline, the strategic chess match was underway. Defensive back Eric Allen had anticipated the alignment, signaling to his teammates that he would jump the route if Brady targeted the single receiver. Charles Woodson, executing a perfectly timed defensive blitz, surged past the offensive line. He smelled blood in the water, tracking the young quarterback like a predator. Brady, sensing the pressure, attempted to bring the ball back to his body, aborting his passing motion. In that split second, Woodson collided with Brady, his hand striking the ball and forcing it to the turf. The stadium erupted as the Oakland players celebrated what appeared to be a game-ending recovery of a fumble. To the naked eye, it was a classic strip sack, a defensive masterpiece that would send the Oakland Raiders to the conference championship. But the arbiters of the game had a different duty. Referee Walt Coleman was summoned to the replay monitor to review the play under a little-known and highly complex rule, the tuck rule. The rule, defined under the league's official guidelines, stated that when an offensive player is holding the ball to pass it forward, any intentional forward movement of his arm starts a forward pass. Even if the player loses possession of the ball as he attempts to tuck it back toward his body, it is ruled an incomplete pass if the ball comes loose before he secures it against a side. The minutes crawled by as Coleman peered into the monitor, surrounded by the falling snow. On the field, the players waited, their hearts pounding against their ribs. The psychological shift was palpable. Brady, initially believing the game was lost, stood quietly, his face a mask of determination mixed with anxiety. Woodson and his teammates stood confident, convinced of the physical reality of the play they had just made. When Coleman returned to the field and announced that the play was ruled an incomplete pass, the stadium exploded with renewed life, while the Oakland sideline was struck with a profound sense of disbelief. The ruling was technically correct under the strict, dry letters of the rulebook, yet it felt to many like a cosmic injustice, a phantom decision that snatched victory from the hands of the Raiders. The Patriots, granted a second lease on life, seized the momentum. The offense executed with clinical precision, advancing the ball to set up a 45-yard field goal attempt by kicker Adam Vinatieri. The conditions were nearly impossible. 5 to 6 inches of snow covered the turf, making the footing highly unstable. Vinatieri stepped forward, his mind clearing out the noise of the crowd and the biting wind. The kick was struck cleanly, rising into the snowy night and slicing through the uprights to send the game into overtime. It was a moment of pure athletic brilliance, a testament to human willpower over the elements. In overtime, the Patriots won the coin toss, a crucial advantage under the sudden death rules of the era. They marched down the field, and Vinatieri once again delivered the winning points, securing a victory that would catapult the franchise into a golden era of dominance. The aftermath of the game left a lasting impact on both men. Had the ruling gone the other way, the trajectory of professional football would have been entirely different. Brady might have returned to his backup role behind the veteran Drew Bledsoe, and the legendary dynasty of the New England Patriots might never have been realized. Woodson, convinced to his core that the play was a fumble, would carry the memory of that snowy night for the rest of his life. Yet, in their later years, the two champions could look back at the play not with bitterness, but with a deep appreciation for the fine margins that define human destiny. Chapter 2: The Autumn of Decisions. In the autumn of 1997, the landscape of collegiate football was dominated by a singular, captivating narrative: the race for the prestigious Heisman Trophy. It was a season defined by regional passions, extraordinary individual performances, and a dramatic clash of philosophies regarding what the award truly represented. At the center of this storm was Peyton Manning, the brilliant quarterback of the University of Tennessee Volunteers. Manning was the quintessential student-athlete, a young man of immense intelligence, leadership, and athletic pedigree. His father, Archie Manning, had been a legendary figure at the University of Mississippi, a beloved quarterback who had endured a difficult professional career on struggling teams. Peyton had returned to Tennessee for his senior season, turning down the opportunity to be the first selection in the professional draft in order to savor the collegiate experience and chase a national championship. Manning's decision to stay in school was hailed as a rare act of devotion to the ideals of amateur sports. He was the undisputed frontrunner for the Heisman Trophy, a player whose preparation and mastery of the game were far ahead of his peers. On the field, he was a conductor, orchestrating the Tennessee offense with a calm, intellectual precision. Yet, as the season progressed, a challenger emerged from the north. Charles Woodson, playing for the undefeated Michigan Wolverines, was redefining the impact a defensive player could have on the game. Woodson was a rare three-way threat, dominating as a cover corner, contributing as a wide receiver, and posing a constant threat as a punt returner. His athleticism was jaw-dropping. He possessed an anticipation and a fluidity of movement that seemed to place him several steps ahead of everyone else on the field. The debate over who should win the award quickly became a national conversation, reflecting deep regional divides. Supporters of Manning argued that the Heisman was a Lifetime Achievement Award, meant to honor the player who best represented the values and excellence of college football over a sustained career. Supporters of Woodson countered that the award belonged to the most outstanding player of that specific season, regardless of position. No primary defensive player had ever won the trophy, a historical precedent that many felt was an injustice to half of the players on the field. As the weeks passed, other spectacular talents demanded attention. In the East, Randy Moss was executing a historic season at Marshall University. Moss was an athletic marvel, a wide receiver with a unique combination of height, speed, and catching ability that left defenders helpless. Despite early struggles in his personal life, Moss had found a home in Huntington, West Virginia, using the football field as a stage to redeem himself and showcase his undeniable genius. In the West, Ryan Leaf was leading the Washington State University Cougars with a confident, high-scoring offensive attack. Leaf possessed a powerful arm and a swagger that captured the imagination of football scouts across the nation. He was a volatile competitor, capable of generating explosive plays that kept the Cougars in the national title hunt. The turning point of the Heisman race occurred in late November. While Manning continued to put up solid, professional numbers, Woodson delivered a series of signature performances on national television. In the highly anticipated matchup against rival Ohio State University, Woodson made a spectacular leaping interception in the end zone, caught a crucial pass on offense, and returned a punt 66 yards for a touchdown. It was a virtuoso performance that captured the imagination of the voters, shifting the narrative in his favor. When the finalists gathered in New York City in December, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The ballot results revealed a historic outcome. Charles Woodson was announced as the winner of the 63rd Heisman Trophy, becoming the first primarily defensive player to claim the honor. The announcement was met with joy in Michigan and deep frustration in Tennessee, where fans felt their beloved quarterback had been unjustly denied his place in history. The 1997 draft class would go on to define professional football for the next 2 decades. Manning would be selected first overall by the Indianapolis Colts, beginning a career that would place him among the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Leaf would go second to the San Diego Chargers, embarking on a turbulent path that highlighted the immense psychological pressures faced by young athletes. Woodson would go fourth to the Oakland Raiders, and Moss would join the Minnesota Vikings, both establishing legacies that would lead them to the Hall of Fame. The race of 1997 remained a shining moment in the history of the sport, a year when the pursuit of excellence brought out the absolute best in its competitors. Chapter 3: The Theater of Power. To understand the modern history of Italy, one must understand the unique intersection of television, politics, and the beautiful game of football. At the center of this complex tapestry was Silvio Berlusconi, a wealthy media tycoon who would become the nation's longest-serving prime minister. Using his success as the owner of Associazione Calcio Milan as the ultimate platform for his political ambition. In the late 1970s, Italy was a nation searching for identity and stability. The decade had been marked by social unrest, political corruption, and the dark shadow of domestic terrorism. The political system was stagnant, dominated by the same central parties for over 40 years. In the city of Milan, however, an economic and cultural transformation was underway. The city was shedding its industrial image to become the fashion and financial capital of the nation, a place of optimism, style, and entrepreneurial drive. Silvio Berlusconi was the embodiment of this new Milanese spirit. He had built modern, planned residential communities outside the city, designed with families and children in mind. Recognizing the power of media, he bypassed strict state regulations by creating a network of local television stations that broadcasted popular, light-hearted entertainment directly into Italian homes. He understood that the modern consumer was hungry for optimism, pleasure, and emotion, and he built a media empire designed to satisfy that hunger. In 1986, Berlusconi turned his attention to football, purchasing Associazione Calcio Milan, a legendary club that had fallen into financial ruin and athletic mediocrity following a series of scandals. His acquisition of the team was not merely a business investment, it was an act of showmanship. He arrived at the team's training grounds in a fleet of helicopters, accompanied by dramatic classical music, signaling to the world that a new era had begun. Berlusconi's vision for the club was clear. He wanted to build the strongest, most spectacular team in the world, playing a style of football that was fast, attacking, and beautiful to watch. To achieve this, he hired Arrigo Sacchai, a relatively unknown coach who had never played professional football at the highest level. Sacchai was a visionary tactician, obsessed with organization, collective movement, and relentless pressing. He demanded absolute concentration and a scientific approach to defending, compressing the space on the field and forcing opponents into submission. Under Sacchai's guidance, and supported by the immense wealth of Berlusconi, the club acquired some of the finest players in the world, including the brilliant Dutch trio of Marco van Basten, Ruud Gullit, and Frank Rijkaard, alongside Italian stalwarts like Franco Baresi and Carlo Ancelotti. The team style of play was a revelation, dominating opponents with a speed and intensity that had never been seen in the defensive-minded Italian league. In 1989, this brilliant squad reached the pinnacle of European football, defeating Steaua Bucharest 4-0 in the final of the Champions Cup. The match, played in Barcelona before 90,000 adoring fans who had traveled from Italy in a massive caravan of red and black, was a masterpiece of athletic dominance. It was a performance that went beyond sport, serving as a powerful symbol of Italy's economic vitality and cultural modernism. Berlusconi carefully aligned his personal brand with the triumphs of the football club. He was the winning president, the man who turned everything he touched into gold. When he decided to enter the political arena in the early 1990s, he utilized the language and structures of football to launch his campaign, naming his political party after the famous stadium chant, Forza Italia. His political campaign was a massive success, capturing the imagination of a public that was weary of traditional politicians and hungry for the leadership of a proven winner. Football had provided him with a direct connection to the hearts of millions, proving to be the ultimate engine of political power. Throughout his turbulent career, the successes of Associazione Calcio Milan remained his shield and his pride, a testament to a man who declared himself condemned to win, forever shaping the history of his nation through the drama of the playing field. An analytical investigation into the mechanics of human ambition, the fragility of institutional rules, and the psychological constructs of victory reveals deep patterns of human behavior. When we examine the records of modern athletic and political arenas, we are not merely looking at games played on grass or campaigns waged in public squares. Instead, we are observing complex psychological dramas where human beings confront the limits of their own agency, the arbitrary nature of systems, and the relentless drive to establish supremacy over their peers. This analysis approaches three distinct historical case files through the lens of psychological investigation and narrative deconstruction. The first case file examines the cold evening in Foxborough where a single, obscure regulation redefined the destinies of two legendary athletes and an entire sports league. The second case file investigates the competitive campaign of 1997, a year when the pursuit of college football's highest individual honor exposed the deep regional anxieties, media manipulations, and psychological pressures thrust upon young men on the cusp of adulthood. The third case file transitions to the grand stage of Italian society, exploring how A wealthy media tycoon utilized the passion of sport to construct a political apparatus, demonstrating the profound dangers that arise when a leader becomes psychologically condemned to win at all costs. By examining these narratives, we observe the subtle interactions between luck, intent, rules, and human perception. Through a disciplined exploration of these events, we can begin to understand the complex mental frameworks that govern our desire for triumph and our defense mechanisms in the face of controversy. Chapter 1: The Anatomy of a Cold Night in Foxborough. In the third week of January during the year 2002, a winter storm descended upon the region of New England, coating the metal and concrete of Foxborough Stadium in a thick, relentless layer of snow. To the casual observer, the scene was one of chaotic natural beauty. To a criminal psychologist or an investigator of human behavior, the environment represented a high-stress pressure vessel. The temperature was frigid, the footing was treacherous, and the stakes were absolute. The New England Patriots were hosting the Oakland Raiders in the American Football Conference semifinals. It was the final game to be played in that aging stadium before its planned demolition, lending an air of tragic finality to the proceedings. The owner of the home franchise, Robert Kraft, had specifically requested that the game be played in these dark, freezing conditions, believing that the hostile elements would provide a distinct psychological and physical advantage over a team arriving from the temperate climate of the West Coast. This environmental manipulation is a classic tactical maneuver. By forcing an opponent into an unfamiliar and uncomfortable setting, a strategist attempts to induce cognitive fatigue and physical hesitation before the contest even begins. Yet, as the game progressed, the psychological resilience of both teams was tested to its limits. The Oakland Raiders, carrying the historical weight of a franchise known for its aggressive, uncompromising identity, did not succumb to the cold. They controlled the flow of the game, maintaining a 10-3 lead. Deep into the second half, the field was covered in several inches of snow, rendering the traditional running game nearly impossible. Under such conditions, human decision-making undergoes a profound shift. The mind must process information with extreme speed, while the physical body is severely restricted by the lack of traction. At the center of this frozen stage stood two former college teammates from the University of Michigan, Tom Brady, the young quarterback of the New England Patriots, and Charles Woodson, the decorated cornerback of the Oakland Raiders. The relationship between these two men is of significant psychological interest. Years earlier, they had shared a locker room. Woodson had been the epitome of athletic grace and early success, winning the Heisman Trophy and commanding the admiration of his peers. Brady, conversely, had been selected with the 199th pick in the draft, entering the professional ranks with a profound psychological chip on his shoulder, a driving need to prove his worth to a system that had initially overlooked him. With under 2 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter and the Patriots trailing by 3 points, the narrative converged upon a single, split second. Physical interaction. The Patriots' offense had moved the ball to the Oakland 47-yard line. The atmospheric pressure on the field was immense. In these critical moments, a defender's instincts are heightened to a state of hypervigilance. Charles Woodson, recognizing a specific offensive formation, anticipated the play. He initiated a blitz, rushing from the edge of the defense, with a singular focus to disrupt the quarterback and secure the victory. As Brady retreated to pass, his psychological focus was split between searching downfield for an open receiver and sensing the impending physical threat. Woodson closed the distance, launching himself toward his former teammate. Just as Brady began to pull the football back toward his body after a passing motion, Woodson struck, dislodging the ball. The leather sphere tumbled into the snow, where it was recovered by a defender from the Oakland Raiders. On the field, the immediate psychological reaction of all participants was uniform. The Raiders began to celebrate, believing they had secured a franchise-defining victory. Tom Brady walked toward the sideline, his posture reflecting the heavy weight of defeat. His jersey was covered in snow and dirt, his expression one of quiet resignation. This was the natural human response to an apparent failure. The physical evidence suggested a simple, brutal truth: a sack, a fumble, and the end of a season. However, the modern sporting arena is governed not merely by physical outcomes, but by a complex, highly detailed code of regulations. The referee of the contest, Walt Coleman, received a communication from the replay booth, prompting a formal review of the play under the microscope of slow-motion television. Replay, the investigation shifted from the physical realm to the interpretive realm. The rule in question was National Football League Rule 3, Section 22, Article 2, popularly known as the Tuck Rule. This regulation dictated that when an offensive player is holding the ball to pass it forward, any intentional forward movement of his arm starts a forward pass. Crucially, if the player loses possession of the ball while attempting to tuck it back toward his body, it must be ruled an incomplete pass rather than a fumble, even if the player has clearly abandoned the intent to throw. This rule represents a fascinating psychological paradox. It attempts to codify human intent through rigid physical parameters. In the high-speed reality of the game, Brady was clearly trying to preserve possession of the ball, not deliver a pass to a teammate. Yet, under the strict, literal interpretation of the written law, his physical mechanics satisfied the definition of a forward pass. After a tense, prolonged deliberation at the replay monitor, Walt Coleman returned to the field and announced that the ruling had been overturned. The fumble was ruled an incomplete pass. The New England Patriots retained possession of the ball. The psychological impact of this decision was immediate and profound. For the Oakland Raiders, it was an experience of systemic injustice, a sudden and incomprehensible stripping away of a hard-earned victory. The human mind is wired to seek fairness and order when a clear physical reality is contradicted by an administrative decree. The result is often a state of cognitive shock and Lingering resentment. For the Patriots, the ruling provided a sudden, unexpected, psychological reprieve, a burst of collective energy that allowed them to drive down the field and position their kicker, Adam Vinatieri, for a historic 45-yard field goal through the driving blizzard to force overtime. The subsequent victory of the Patriots in overtime and their eventual run to a Super Bowl championship established a dynasty that would dominate the league for nearly 2 decades. Yet, 20 years later, when Brady and Woodson sat together to review the film of that fateful night, the psychological defense mechanisms remained active. Woodson, speaking with the quiet conviction of a detective who knows the truth of his case, maintained that it was a fumble. Brady, displaying a gentle, self-deprecating wit, defended the ruling while acknowledging the sheer absurdity of the regulation. This interaction demonstrates how human beings construct personal narratives to protect their psychological well-being. To Woodson, the tuck rule remains a systemic failure that altered the course of his career. To Brady, it was a moment of profound luck that served as the catalyst for an unprecedented journey. Had the ruling on the field stood, Brady may well have returned to the bench in the subsequent season, his historic career cut short before it had truly begun. The case of the tuck rule reminds us that our destinies are often decided not by our grandest designs, but by the quiet interpretation of obscure rules in the midst of a storm. Chapter 2: The Great Heisman Campaign of 1997. The pursuit of individual honors in collegiate athletics often mirrors a highly coordinated political campaign, complete with media strategy, public relations, maneuvering, and the intense psychological management of young prospects. The Heisman Trophy, awarded annually to the most outstanding player in college football, represents the pinnacle of this pursuit. In the year 1997, the race for this coveted award became one of the most fiercely debated contests in the history of the sport, offering a rich case study in human ambition, institutional bias, and the psychological weight of expectation. The frontrunner from the outset of the season was Peyton Manning, the starting quarterback for the University of Tennessee. Manning was a subject of immense interest to sports analysts and psychological profilers alike. He was the son of Archie Manning, a legendary quarterback whose own professional career had been marred by his placement on struggling teams. This familial legacy created a unique psychological dynamic. Peyton Manning did not merely play for himself or his university. He played with a deep, internalized desire to fulfill a legacy that had eluded his father. In the spring of 1997, Manning made a decision that surprised many observers of the sport, despite being projected as the clear number 1 selection in the professional draft, which would have secured him immediate generational wealth. He chose to return to the University of Tennessee for his senior season. This decision is highly indicative of a specific personality profile, one that prioritizes completeness, institutional loyalty, and the pursuit of unfinished goals over immediate material gratification. Manning sought to win a national championship and to secure the Heisman Trophy awards. That would cement his legacy in the annals of collegiate history. As the season commenced, Manning performed with the clinical precision of a master craftsman. He was a cerebral player, dedicating countless hours to film, study, and mental preparation, effectively reducing the chaotic violence of the football field to a series of predictable, solvable equations. Yet the psychological burden of being the designated frontrunner is immensely taxing. When a competitor begins a campaign at the summit, any outcome other than perfection is perceived as a failure. Manning's primary obstacle lay in the warm, humid confines of Gainesville, Florida, where the University of Florida maintained a formidable home field advantage known as the Swamp. Manning had never defeated the Florida Gators, and the media constructed a narrative that his entire legacy and his claim to the Heisman Trophy hinged upon this single contest. This type of narrative framing places an extraordinary psychological burden on an individual. It reduces a complex, team-oriented sport to a personal test of character. On the day of the game, the atmosphere was thick with hostility. The Florida defenders, aware of the psychological narrative surrounding Manning, targeted him with relentless physical pressure and verbal taunts. Despite throwing for hundreds of yards and multiple touchdowns, Manning and the Volunteers were once again defeated. The psychological fallout was immediate. The national media, which had previously anointed Manning, began to search for alternative candidates, demonstrating the fickle nature of public perception. Emerging from the Midwest was a candidate of an entirely different profile. Charles Woodson, the junior cornerback for the University of Michigan, was a defensive player of rare, intuitive genius. In the history of the Heisman Trophy, no primarily defensive player had ever won the award. The system was historically biased toward offensive players, specifically quarterbacks and running backs, who touched the ball on nearly every play and accumulated easily quantifiable statistics. Woodson's candidacy was built on a psychological appeal to the purists of the game. He was a competitor who refused to be confined by a single role. In addition to his duties as a shutdown cornerback, he played as a wide receiver and returned punts, making critical, spectacular plays in the most significant moments of Michigan's undefeated season. Woodson possessed in quiet, unshakable confidence, a swagger that was not born of arrogance, but of a deep understanding of his own physical and mental superiority on the field. While Manning represented the establishment, the legacy, and the meticulous preparation of the traditional quarterback, Woodson represented the exciting, unpredictable disruptor. The psychological battle between these two profiles reached a climax in late November. While Manning was performing reliably in the South, Woodson and the Michigan Wolverines faced their arch-rivals, the Ohio State Buckeyes, in a game that would decide their championship hopes. During this high-stakes contest, Woodson put on a masterclass in psychological dominance. He intercepted a pass, caught a significant pass on offense, and returned a punt 78 yards for a touchdown, famously striking the iconic Heisman pose as he ran down the sideline. This moment of physical theater was a calculated act of self-assertion, a declaration to the voters that he was indeed the most valuable player in the country. Meanwhile, other compelling figures occupied the periphery of this great race. Ryan Leaf, the physically imposing quarterback from Washington State University, possessed a powerful arm and a brash, confrontational personality. Leaf's confidence was immense, but unlike Woodson's, it occasionally bordered on a fragile hubris that struggled to cope with adversity. In contrast, Randy Moss, the sophomore wide receiver from Marshall University, was a subject of profound psychological and athletic interest, having faced early legal and institutional setbacks that had derailed his opportunities at larger universities. Moss had found a path to redemption in Huntington, West Virginia. He played with a fierce, burning intensity, utilizing his extraordinary physical gifts to dominate opponents and quietly rebuild his character. As the December voting approached, the regional passions of the country were highly inflamed. In the South, fans and media members believed that Manning's lifetime of achievement and his decision to return to school made him the only logical choice. In the Midwest and beyond, a growing movement argued that to deny Woodson the trophy would be a historic injustice, a capitulation to a bias system that valued offensive statistics over pure football excellence. When the finalists gathered in the formal rooms of the Downtown Athletic Club in New York City, the tension was palpable. The announcement of Charles Woodson as the 63rd Heisman Trophy winner was a watershed moment in the history of the sport. It was a victory for the disruptor, a recognition of defensive brilliance that broke a 60-year institutional pattern. For Peyton Manning, the runner-up finish was a bitter psychological blow. The university community of Tennessee reacted with an outpouring of anger, accusing the national media of bias and expressing a deep sense of betrayal. Yet from a psychological perspective, this disappointment may have served as a vital crucible for Manning's future success. The pain of that near miss reinforced his obsessive work ethic, fueling a professional career in which he would go on to win multiple championships and set every significant passing record in the professional ranks. The Great Heisman Race of 1997 remains a brilliant study in the diversity of human excellence. It demonstrates how different psychological profiles, the meticulous planner, the intuitive disruptor, the brash competitor, and the redeemed survivor can all reach the highest levels of achievement within a shared system, leaving a legacy that continues to be analyzed decades later. Chapter 3: The Media Tycoon and the Cult of Victory. To understand the intersection of sport, wealth, and political power, one must examine the extraordinary career of Silvio Berlusconi, the media magnate who served as the longest-running prime minister of Italy in the post-war era. Berlusconi's story is a compelling case study for the criminal psychologist and the political analyst alike, representing a sophisticated exercise in mass psychological manipulation, branding, and the construction of an unshakable narrative of personal success. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Italy was a nation suffering from a profound psychological malaise. The decade had been defined by political instability, economic stagnation, and the terrifying specter of domestic terrorism, a period known as the Years of Lead. The traditional political class, dominated by the Christian Democrats, appeared corrupt, ossified, and completely detached from the desires of the modern citizenry. The population was weary, seeking a sense of vitality, modernism, and above all, a reason to feel proud of their national identity. Into this vacuum stepped Silvio Berlusconi. Born into a middle-class Milanese family, Berlusconi possessed an extraordinary, almost hypnotic ability to persuade others. He began his career as a residential developer, building massive, modern residential complexes on the outskirts of Milan. These projects were not merely housing. They were designed as self-contained, idealized communities for young families, featuring green spaces, schools, and eventually their own closed-circuit television networks. Berlusconi recognized early that the true currency of the modern era was not land or steel, but the control of human attention. He exploited legal loopholes in the state-regulated broadcasting system to construct the country's first private television empire by purchasing local stations across the peninsula and broadcasting the same pre-recorded videotapes with minor time delays. He successfully bypassed the national monopoly of the state broadcaster. The television programming Berlusconi offered was a radical departure from the dry, educational, and often solemn content of state television. He filled the airwaves with bright, colorful American dramas, game shows featuring glamorous hostesses, and endless hours of light, escapist entertainment. He constructed a world of pleasure, consumerism, and optimism. In doing so, he became a master entrepreneur of human emotions, shifting the national psychology from one of civic duty and ideological struggle to one of personal indulgence and material aspiration. However, Berlusconi's ambition was not limited to commercial television. He understood that to truly capture the soul of the Italian people, he needed to control their greatest passion, football. In the year 1986, the historic club of Milan was on the verge of bankruptcy, tarnished by a match-fixing scandal that had resulted in their temporary relegation to the second division. The acquisition of this struggling institution was a calculated masterpiece of psychological branding. On a summer afternoon, Berlusconi introduced himself to the players and the public with a display of theatrical audacity. He arrived at the team's training facility in a fleet of helicopters, accompanied by the dramatic strains of classical music. This grand entrance was designed to project an image of supreme, almost godlike power. He was not merely a wealthy owner. He was a savior descending from the heavens to rescue a fallen icon. Berlusconi assembled a staff and a roster of immense talent. He appointed Arrigo Sacchi an unheralded coach who had never played professional football, to lead the team. This appointment was a stroke of psychological genius.
Sachai was a
fanatic of tactical organization, demanding absolute obedience and physical sacrifice from his players. He implemented a revolutionary system of play based on high pressing and collective movement, effectively compressing the space on the field and rendering traditional defensive strategies obsolete. Under Sachai's direction, and bolstered by the acquisition of world-class Dutch stars such as Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten, Milan transformed into the most dominant and aesthetically pleasing team in the world. They won domestic championships and European Cups, dismantling the finest teams on the continent. With a style of play that was fast, aggressive, and beautiful, Berlusconi took personal credit for these triumphs. He presented the success of Milan as a direct result of his personal philosophy, his entrepreneurial vision, and his winning mentality. He cultivated an image of a man who is literally condemned to win, an individual who possessed a unique formula for success that could be applied to any human endeavor. In the early 1990s, when a massive judicial investigation known as Clean Hands exposed the systemic corruption of the traditional political parties, the Italian political system collapsed. Once again, Berlusconi recognized an opportunity to exploit a national crisis. He entered the political arena, launching a new political party named after the popular football cheer,
Forza Italia.
The psychological brilliance of this move cannot be overstated. By naming his party after a stadium chant, he instantly bypassed the traditional, intellectual language of politics, appealing directly to the tribal, emotional loyalty of football fans. He ran his political campaign using the organizational structure of his television networks and the marketing strategies that had made Milan a global brand. He presented himself to the electorate not as a professional politician, but as the successful president who had made Milan champions of the world, promising to do the same for the entire nation. Berlusconi's political narrative was built entirely on this projection of victory. He was a leader who could not afford to show weakness or acknowledge defeat, as his entire authority rested upon the illusion of his infallibility. However, this psychological need to maintain the appearance of a winner is a dangerous trap. It often leads to a profound detachment from reality, a state of hubris where the leader begins to believe that the rules of society, the laws of the state, and the boundaries of ethical behavior do not apply to him. For decades, Berlusconi dominated Italian life, surviving numerous legal challenges, personal scandals, and political defeats by constantly reinventing his narrative of success. Yet, the legacy of his reign is a complex and highly debated subject. While his supporters remember him as a dynamic, modernizing force who brought joy and pride to the nation, his critics view him as a master manipulator who degraded the civic culture of his country and utilized the passion of sport to shield himself from justice. The case of Silvio Berlusconi demonstrates the extraordinary power of sport as a Psychological weapon. It shows how the emotions of the stadium can be harnessed to construct an empire of political power, and how a leader who is condemned to win can ultimately become a prisoner of his own myth. Chapter 4. Synthesis and Psychological Conclusion. When we bring these three distinct case files together, we observe a series of profound truths about the human condition, the nature of competition, and the fragile structures we construct to govern our lives. Whether on the snow-covered field of Foxborough, the pressured stage of the Heisman ceremony, or the grand political arena of Italy, the central theme remains constant: the relentless pursuit of victory and the psychological strategies we employ to justify our outcomes. In each of these narratives, we see how human beings interact with rules. Rules are designed to impose order on the chaotic, unpredictable nature of human competition. Yet, as the Tuck Rule case demonstrates, even the most carefully drafted regulations are subject to the vagaries of human interpretation and the shifting tides of luck. A single mechanical detail, the movement of an arm, the tucking of a ball, can alter the course of history, leaving one party with a legacy of triumph and another with a lingering sense of systemic injustice. The Great Heisman Race of 1997 shows us how these institutional rules and voting systems are susceptible to the power of narrative. The media acts as a powerful accomplice, constructing simplified stories of heroes and villains, favorites and underdogs, to satisfy the public's desire for drama. The young men who occupy these narratives must carry an immense psychological burden, adapting their personalities to survive the intense scrutiny of the public eye. Finally, the career of Silvio Berlusconi serves as a powerful warning of what happens when the desire to win becomes an absolute, consuming obsession. When a leader equates his personal identity with victory, he begins to view the rules of society not as guidelines for fair play, but as obstacles to be bypassed or manipulated. He constructs a reality based entirely on illusion, utilizing the powerful, emotional bonds of sport to secure the devotion of the masses and protect himself from the consequences of his actions. As investigators of human behavior, we must look beyond the simple outcomes of these contests. We must find empathy for the participants, recognizing that their struggles, their triumphs, and their failures are reflections of our own desires. We seek order, we crave recognition, and we long for the feeling of
victory.
Yet, the true measure of our character is found not in whether we win or lose, but in how we conduct ourselves within the rules and how we treat our fellow competitors when the lights fade and the snow begins to cover the field. The anatomy of competition and the psychology of the rule. An investigation into the triumphs, the cognitive dissonance, and the systemic ambitions of elite human performance. Introduction. To the clinical eye of a psychological investigator, the arena of elite human competition is not merely a display of physical prowess. It is a highly controlled laboratory where the deepest mechanisms of human behavior are laid
Bare under intense pressure.
Games, whether played on the frozen turf of New England, the humid collegiate fields of the American South, or the grand, politically charged stadiums of Italy, are governed by artificial legal frameworks. We call these frameworks rules. A rule is a collective agreement designed to bring order to chaos. Yet when human ambition reaches its absolute zenith, the rule itself becomes a battleground of interpretation. In those critical moments where victory and defeat hang by a single thread, we witness the psychological phenomena of rationalization, the butterfly effect of bureaucratic arbitration, and the dangerous allure of a self-constructed narrative of destiny. This investigation explores 3 distinct cases where the human mind collided with the arbitrary boundaries of the rule. We will analyze the cold, calculating survival instincts of a young quarterback and his defensive rival in the snow of
Foxborough.
We will dissect the intense pressure of legacy, expectation, and narrative construction during one of the most celebrated collegiate award races in history. Finally, we will examine the pathology of a media tycoon who used the passion of sport as a psychological Trojan horse to conquer an entire nation. Through the lens of behavioral analysis, we look past the scoreboard to examine the minds of those who were, by their own admission, condemned to win. Chapter 1: The Blizzard and the Semantics of Recovery. In the 3rd week of January in the year 2002, a weather pattern of remarkable intensity descended upon the region of New England. For the owners of the New England Patriots, particularly the executive Robert Kraft, this was not a logistical disaster, but a tactical preference. The National Football League had inquired if the franchise preferred to avoid the dark, frigid elements of Foxborough Stadium for their critical playoff matchup against the Oakland Raiders. The response was unequivocal. The home team desired the cold, the dark, and the heavy accumulation of snow.
They sought a psychological advantage, a
environmental barrier that would freeze the warm weather instincts of their West Coast opponents. To understand the psychological climate of this game, one must first examine the 2 key actors whose paths were destined to cross in a single millisecond of physical collision. The first was Tom Brady. At the time, he was a young, relatively inexperienced quarterback who had spent his collegiate career at the University of Michigan, fighting for playing time, eventually being selected as the 199th pick in the draft. He was a player defined by a quiet, burning resentment of his doubters, carrying a double portion of psychological burden on his shoulders. He had been thrust into the starting role only because the franchise star Drew Bledsoe had suffered a catastrophic, life-threatening internal injury earlier in the season. Brady was not yet a legend. He was a survivor, navigating his 2nd year in the league, trying to prove that he belonged in the professional ranks. The second actor was Charles Woodson, a cornerback of singular athletic genius. Woodson had been the golden boy of the same University of Michigan.
He was a
Heisman Trophy winner, an elite athlete who possessed an almost preternatural ability to anticipate the movements of his opponents. While Brady had struggled In the shadows, Woodson had run in the light of national adoration.
He was
confident, physical, and possessed the sharp, predatory instincts of a defender, who did not merely seek to tackle his opponent, but to strip them of their possessions and their dignity on the field. As the snow accumulated on the turf of Foxborough Stadium, the psychological dynamics of the game began to unfold. For a quarterback, a blizzard presents a unique cognitive paradox. While the physical act of gripping and throwing a wet, frozen ball is difficult, the environment actually slows down the defensive
rush.
Defenders cannot plant their feet. They cannot easily disguise their coverages because a sudden, deceptive movement might result in a loss of
footing.
Brady, a product of northern winters, understood this.
He recognized
that while his physical movements might appear clumsy, like a young, unstable deer navigating the ice, his mind could operate at its normal, rapid pace while the physical world around him was forced into slow motion. The Oakland Raiders, conversely, were a team carrying the heavy baggage of their franchise history. They were a team of self-proclaimed outlaws, comfortable in their identity as physical intimidators. Yet, as the game progressed into the final minutes, the psychological tension reached a boiling point. The Raiders held a 3-point lead with under 2 minutes remaining. The New England Patriots were driving, desperately searching for a way to extend their season. It was 2nd down and 3 from the Oakland 47-yard line. The defense, led by the veteran Eric Allen, had anticipated the play call. Through the quiet, informal communication that occurs on the field, Allen had warned his teammates that the Patriots were lining up in a 3-by-1 formation, 3 receivers on one side and a single receiver on the backside. Woodson, positioned to defend the single receiver, felt a sudden surge of anticipation. He knew the young quarterback would look to his primary target. He knew that if the ball was thrown, he had the closing speed to intercept it. But Woodson did not merely drop into coverage. He was sent on a blitz, a calculated risk designed to exploit the young quarterback's lack of experience. As Brady dropped back, he scanned the field. His primary target was covered. In that fraction of a second, the psychological pressure of the moment became overwhelming. A veteran quarterback might have thrown the ball away, accepting a loss of down to preserve the clock. But Brady, young and desperate to keep the play alive, hesitated. He began to bring the ball down, attempting to protect it, to tuck it back against his body. In that exact millisecond, Woodson arrived. With the precision of a surgeon and the force of a predatory animal, Woodson struck the quarterback. His hand made contact with the ball, dislodging it from Brady's grasp. The ball tumbled into the snow, a dark object spinning against a white canvas. To every observer on the field, to the players, to the coaching staffs, and to the millions watching at home, this was the defining moment of the game. It was a sack, a forced fumble, and a recovery by the Oakland Raiders. The psychological reaction was instantaneous. The Oakland defenders erupted in celebration. their minds already leaping forward to the next round of the playoffs in Pittsburgh. Brady walked off the field, his head bowed, his body language embodying the absolute face of defeat. In his mind, the season was over. He had failed his team in the most critical moment. He had allowed the ball to be stripped from his hands. But the micro-society of the game is not governed by the common sense of its participants. It is governed by the written word of the rulebook. Referee Walt Coleman stepped into the center of the field. Under the regulations of the league, any controversial play inside the final 2 minutes was subject to official review from the replay booth. As Coleman walked toward the monitor, he was not merely reviewing a physical action, he was entering a linguistic minefield. He was tasked with interpreting National Football League Rule 3, Section 22, Article 2. The rule stated that when an offensive player is holding the ball to pass it forward, any intentional forward movement of his arm starts a forward pass. Crucially, the rule added a highly technical caveat. If the player loses possession of the ball while attempting to tuck it back toward his body, even if he has abandoned the intent to throw, the play must be ruled an incomplete pass, rather than a fumble, provided the ball is lost before it is safely secured against his torso. Here lies the core of the psychological investigation. What is intent? How can an external arbiter determine the internal desire of a quarterback who is in the process of changing his mind? To the neutral observer, Brady was clearly no longer trying to pass. He had aborted the attempt. He was trying to survive, to pull the ball back to his chest to absorb the impending hit. Yet the physical motion of his arm had gone forward before the contact occurred. Under the strict, literal interpretation of this highly specific, some would say poorly drafted, rule, the physical action of the arm took precedence over the mental intent of the player. After several agonizing minutes of study, Coleman emerged from the replay booth. He turned on his microphone and announced the decision that would alter the trajectory of professional sports history. The ruling on the field was overturned. It was an incomplete pass. The Patriots retained possession of the ball. The psychological impact of this decision on the two teams cannot be overstated. For the Oakland Raiders, it was a moment of profound cognitive disruption. They had achieved victory. They had felt the chemical rush of success, only to have it stripped away by a bureaucratic technicality. The sense of injustice was palpable. Their defensive focus shattered. They had been, in their own minds, victims of a systemic conspiracy, of a New England snow job. For the Patriots, the ruling was a resurrection. They had been given a second chance at life, and the human mind, when freed from the fear of failure, often operates with a dangerous, unburdened efficiency. Brady, recognizing the magnitude of the escape, executed the remaining plays with a calm, clinical precision. The kicker, Adam Vinatieri, would subsequently convert a 45-yard field goal through a blinding blizzard, a kick that many observers still consider one of the most difficult and remarkable physical achievements in the history of the sport. followed by the winning kick in overtime. 20 years later, when Brady and Woodson sat in a room together to discuss the play, the psychological mechanisms of rationalization were still fully active. Woodson, speaking with the quiet intensity of a man who refuses to let go of a fundamental truth, insisted that the play was a fumble. He pointed to the physical reality of the ball leaving the hand, the lack of any genuine passing motion, and the defensive execution of the play. He argued that the rule was a shield, a protective device designed to save officials from making difficult decisions. Brady, on the other hand, exhibited the classic behavior of a beneficiary of
fortune.
He smiled, he joked, and yet he carefully defended the technicality of the rule. He admitted that his intent was not to throw the ball, but he clung to the physical mechanics of the rule as his justification. He utilized a common psychological defense. I did not write the rules, I merely operated within them. This brings us to the profound educational value of this case. The tuck rule was not just a controversial call, it was a demonstration of how a single, highly specific regulation can create a massive butterfly effect. If Walt Coleman had upheld the fumble, the Oakland Raiders would have won the
game.
They likely would have traveled to Pittsburgh and perhaps to the Super
Bowl.
Their head coach, John Gruden, might have stayed with the franchise rather than being traded to Tampa Bay. More importantly, Tom Brady's career would have been drastically different.
If
the Patriots had lost that night, head coach Bill Belichick would have faced immense pressure to return the starting quarterback job to the healthy, highly paid veteran Drew Bledsoe for the 2002 season. Brady might have returned to the bench, his moment in the sun remembered only as a brief, promising run that ended with a costly mistake in the snow. Instead, the ruling catapulted Brady into the starting role permanently, launching a 2-decade dynasty that redefined the sport. It is a stark reminder that in the grand design of human life, our greatest accomplishments are often built upon a foundation of sheer, arbitrary luck, mediated by the precise interpretation of a few written words. Chapter 2: The Heisman Race and the Cognitive Burden of Expectation. In the late summer of the year 1997, the collegiate football landscape in the United States of America was dominated by a single prevailing narrative. The narrative centered around Peyton Manning, the senior quarterback of the University of Tennessee. To analyze Manning's mental state during this period is to study the phenomenon of generational expectation. Peyton was the son of Archie Manning, a legendary quarterback who had achieved great collegiate fame at the University of Mississippi, but had spent his professional career mired in the frustration of losing franchises. The father's unfulfilled championship dreams had become, in many ways, the son's psychological inheritance. Peyton Manning was a perfectionist. He was a player who sought to control every variable of his environment. He studied film with the intensity of an investigator. He prepared his body and his mind with an almost obsessive dedication. At the conclusion of his junior year, Manning had faced a critical decision.
He
was projected to be the absolute first pick in the National Football League draft, a selection held by the New York Jets, then coached by the legendary and demanding Bill Parcells. The financial incentive to turn professional was immense, representing millions of dollars and immediate security. Yet, Manning chose to stay. This decision was met with astonishment by the sports media and the public.
2.
The clinical analyst, Manning's choice reveals a deep-seated desire for completion. He had not yet won a national championship. He had not beaten his primary rival, the University of Florida, and he had not won the Heisman Trophy, an award that his father had famously missed out on years before. Manning sought to write a perfect ending to his collegiate narrative. He returned to Knoxville to savor the experience, to finish what he had started, and to claim what many believed was already his by right of destiny. The media quickly constructed a framework around Manning's return. The phrase was repeated constantly: it was his Heisman to lose. But this phrase is a dangerous psychological trap. When an individual is placed in a position where they have everything to lose and nothing to gain, the cognitive burden becomes immense. Every game is no longer an opportunity for triumph. It is a high-stakes defensive action against failure. As the 1997 season commenced, several other figures began to emerge from the periphery, each representing a different psychological archetype of the competitor. First, there was Ryan Leaf of Washington State University. Leaf was the physical antithesis of the polished, polite Manning, standing 6 feet 6 inches tall and weighing 235 pounds. Leaf possessed a magnificent physical tool set, but his psychological profile was highly volatile. He operated with a swagger, a loud, confrontational confidence that bordered on arrogance. He was a player who fed on conflict, who enjoyed telling his doubters to be quiet, and who played with an explosive, high-risk intensity. While Manning was the disciplined son of a legacy, Leaf was the wild, unguided force of nature. From Montana. Second, there was Randy Moss of Marshall University. Moss was perhaps the most physically gifted wide receiver to ever play the game. However, his psychological journey was one of recovery and redemption. He had made mistakes in his youth, brushes with the legal system that had cost him opportunities at prestigious programs like Notre Dame and Florida State University.
He had
returned to his home state, playing at a smaller program, carrying the knowledge that a single mistake would destroy his life and his dreams. Moss played with a desperate, breathtaking, brilliant intensity, utilizing his speed and height to dominate his opponents while maintaining a quiet, almost detached attitude toward the media circus that surrounded the Heisman Trophy. Finally, there was Charles Woodson. Woodson, the cornerback from the University of Michigan, was the ultimate disruptor of the narrative. Since the inception of the Heisman Trophy in 1935, the award had been almost exclusively reserved for offensive players, specifically quarterbacks and running backs. The conventional wisdom of the sport suggested that a defensive player, no matter how talented, could not influence the outcome of a game sufficiently to warrant the trophy. The award depicted a figure with a ball in his hand, implying that only those who advanced the ball could lay claim to its honor. But Woodson refused to accept this limitation. Under the guidance of his coaching staff, Woodson became a three-way threat. He did not merely play defense, shutting down the opponent's best receivers with a physical, suffocating style. He also played wide receiver, scoring critical touchdowns and returned punts with a dangerous, electrifying speed. The psychological turning point of the 1997 season occurred on a hot, humid afternoon in Gainesville, Florida. Peyton Manning and the Tennessee Volunteers traveled to the swamp to face the University of Florida Gators. For Manning, this game was a psychological mountain he had never been able to climb. He had suffered painful defeats to the Gators in previous years, and the media had begun to suggest that he could not win the big game. During the game, the Florida defense, under defensive coordinator Bob Stoops, launched a relentless physical assault on Manning. The pressure was not just physical, it was cognitive. Manning, desperate to break the curse, found himself hurried, forced into unusual mistakes. The Volunteers suffered a decisive defeat. In the aftermath of the Florida game, the psychological landscape of the Heisman race shifted. The narrative of Manning's inevitability was broken. He was no longer the untouchable golden child. He was vulnerable. While Manning struggled with the burden of expectation, Charles Woodson and the Michigan Wolverines were building a powerful, collective momentum. On a